Frankly, speaking sports, it was only about a month ago when the Tennessee Titans chose Cam Ward as the number one pick in the NFL draft. Now they got the decision of whether he should start game one or not start game one. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, folks, if the Tennessee Titans go ahead and start Cam Ward game one, they are the biggest foolish organization in all of the NFL. And some people may already think that, but they're trying to make things right, and they're not going to make things right by starting Cam Ward for a couple different reasons. This kid has so much to learn. He has so much to learn. You can learn a lot being off the field as well as being on the field. And you have to learn off the field. You got to watch film. You got to be instructed. You got to be trained. You got to be nurtured. You have to be able to watch the pace of the game from the sidelines before you get thrown to the wolves. And right now, that's what the Titans will be doing if they start Cam Ward week one. The starting quarterback, as long as he's still on the team, should be Will Levis game one. But it creates a problem for the Tennessee Titans. What happens if Will Levis starts off hot? Oh no, we got the future here who would be sitting on the bench. But it's a risk you gotta take because all you're doing is hurting this young man by starting him game one. When you look at Cam Ward's strengths, his strengths is obviously his arm talent. His velocity is unbelievable. He's definitely an improvisational person when it comes to running around the pocket on the football field. We all know about his athleticism, his red zone passing in college. Remember, it's a different game, a much faster pace in the pros than it is the NFL, and he does have a quick release. But his weaknesses are decision making. His footwork needs so much work. It means so much work, especially when he's under pressure. You talk about Will Levis, you talked about Mason Rudolph and their ball security. Well, let me tell you something. Cam Ward has a history of fumbling the ball a lot, especially when he's under pressure. He struggles to recognize his defenses as well. You have to be able to know, understand, and be able to read all the defenses that are coming at you from the opposing teams. You can see defenses you never seen in college. You can learn a lot from the sideline about these different defenses, especially if you have a mentor next to you telling you and asking you questions and giving you answers that you should be able to understand so that when you go on the football field, you are ready to go. When you go on that football field, there's still going to be some type of learning curve because you're going to be in the game, but you should be prepared. And he's not going to be prepared if he starts game one. He has a lot of trouble reading zone coverages, folks, and that's going to be a lot of what the NFL does and provides on the defensive side of the ball. Let's look at some of the quarterbacks, okay, guys? So, tell me what these quarterbacks have in common. Dan Marino, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. You know what they all have in common? Well, the obvious answer is they're all going to be Hall of Fame quarterbacks if they're not already. Some of them are, some of them definitely will be. But that's not the answer I'm looking for. The answer is they all did not start their rookie season game one. They all sat on the bench and learned from watching other people's experiences on the football field, watching the quarterback, watching the decisions they make, whether correct or incorrect, looking at the defenses, watching the pace of the games, watching what goes on the sidelines. There's so much to learn in the game of football. Now, for those of you Tennessee Titan fans who were around when the Houston Oilers were around, two of the best quarterbacks in the history of the Tennessee Titans did not start game one their rookie season. Warren Moon, Gifford Nelson started, and Moon had trouble adapting to the NFL. But obviously, we see what he did later on because he learned. He was able to watch. He was able to learn. And how about McNair, Steve McNair? He did not start. Now, he started the first game in Tennessee, but remember, he was drafted by the Houston Oilers, and he sat behind Gifford Nelson. So he was able to learn, watch, and be educated and be trained and be nurtured. Okay, that's why these guys are great quarterbacks. We see nowadays, you see what? Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, Caleb Williams, all trying to start their rookie years. You know what? They almost ruined Bryce Young in Carolina. That mentally and physically. Anthony Richardson has been ruined mentally and physically because he wasn't ready. And we all saw the disaster Caleb Williams was last year with the Chicago Bears. Why? Because Caleb Williams thought you know what, didn't stink. And he found out real quickly that it smells a lot. So those are things that these guys faced by starting. John Elway, one of the greatest quarterbacks, probably the greatest quarterback in Denver Broncos history. You know what? He did start game one of his rookie season, and he got benched. He was relieved twice by Steve DeBerg, and by the middle of the season, he was benched and relieved by Steve DeBerg. You know why? Because he wasn't ready. You have to give time. The problem they're going to have right here is if they start Will Levis and he does really, really well, that's going to create a problem as far as the Tennessee Titans go. But that's a problem they should welcome because all that does is build a stock in one of these two quarterbacks, which will probably be Will Levis, that you can get something back in return for. So I'm going to say it once, I said it twice, and I've been saying it all along, and I've been saying this for years. Rookie quarterbacks should not start the first game in the NFL. There's too much at risk. And you know why there's too much at risk? How often does a number one draft pick, a quarterback, go to a good team? The good teams aren't up there in the draft unless they made a trade. And even then, guys, they're not good teams. Look, the Bears were not a good team last year. The Colts were not a good team when Anthony Richardson started. Obviously, the Carolina Panthers were not a good team when Bryce Young started when he got drafted his rookie year. Okay? And guess what? I'm sorry to say it, Titan fans. Your Titans are not a good team. So why would you want to risk this guy's health and then also mentally put him at risk so you ruin his career? I'm Larry Frank. Frankly speaking,